Hello and welcome to the CAGED Canary podcast. I'm your host, Mahdi Gilbert, here before Magic, and today I want to talk about surfaces. When you are out in the world performing, you may not always have the ideal surface. Now, a lot of people, myself included, we work with certain surfaces when we are performing magic. I usually work with some sort of felt covering on a table or a close-up pad or some sort of surface that I have made or acquired that is softer, that has a little bit of give in it so that I can easily pick up things on the table, coins, cards. Oftentimes when you are working with harder surfaces like wood or glass or metal or marble, this does affect your handling. All of a sudden, you might be used to picking up the deck, having a card laid down and, picking up things quickly. Maybe you laid down something. You're used to picking it up, and all of a sudden you're working with a surface that does not allow that. It doesn't allow that because there's no give in it, or it's uneven. You just can't do the same things. So I want to talk about this is such a big subject, so I'm really going to focus it on what you should be doing when you go out. Now, generally, as a rule, for people who know me and you hear what I talk about, you should have multiple versions of effects so that you can perform the effects that you perform in your show. You can perform them in these non-ideal situations. For example, you're at a bar. The table is disgusting. There's peanuts and beer spilled all over it. It's coated, it's sticky, it's a little bit wet. You should have versions of your effects that you can perform in those situations under those conditions so that you can perform. And you can perform in a way that's engaging, that's appealing. You don't have to, have specific bad tricks that you do under those non-ideal conditions. You have your good material, versions of your great material that you can do in those conditions. So I will start off leaving with that. But getting into, should you take something with you? Such as a close-up pad. I want to talk about this. Generally speaking, close-up pads are not something that you want to carry with you on your person. Now, I'm going to give you a few examples and sort of let you role play things out in your own mind so you can decide if it's appropriate for you or not. I myself don't travel when I'm just out in public with a big bag or briefcase or suitcase. And because of that, I have nowhere to put a close-up pad. So what am I going to do? Technically, could I roll it up? Could I roll it up and just carry it rolled? Yeah. Does it look weird? Absolutely. Would I do that when I'm working? Let's say I'm doing some sort of strolling gig. Would I walk around with a close-up pad? Absolutely not. Why? It looks weird. I personally think it looks unprofessional. You're going from table to table. All of a sudden, you not only have to take up space, you have to take up more space. All right, guys, let me just sit down with you and perform some magic for you. It's a little bit inconvenient. Also, when you are out working, you do have to realize people spill stuff, people drop stuff. First of all, there might not be enough room on the table, and people might not want to give you that room because they have their food there, they have their drinks, they just don't have that space. Their space is already limited. The space is a limited resource on that surface area of the table. They may not want to give it to you. They don't know you, they don't know. If they know you and they know the magic's going to be great, it's a different story, of course. They'll give you the whole table. But if they don't know you, you are fighting battles that you don't want to be fighting at the beginning of your sets. So I personally would not advise that. Now, there are some really classy ways that people have worked with different pads and materials. I personally have a few solutions that I've made for myself. And I've seen some great things that people have. I've seen people who have close-up pads that actually just clip in to the inside of their suit, which I think is a great solution. They have, it's made out of a beautiful fabric, not the same fabric as their suit, but it just has little hooks on it, so they just clip it into their suit, and it's just hanging there, so they don't need to carry it. They just boom, pop it inside their suit, and it just hangs there, and it's secure. It's not flopping around. It has a nice thin profile, really not out of place, really subtle. When they need it, boom, they pull it out. And I mean, that to me is like a professional solution. Ideally, if you do need a surface and you are out strolling, let's say you're doing strolling magic at a walk around gig, and you do need a surface for whatever reason, like a portable surface that you're carrying with you, whether that be a little table, a close-up pad, you really want it to be as non-intrusive as possible. I would say keep it as small as you can. And honestly, for a lot of things, you don't need it to be that big. I would say, you could even have a pad as small as this envelope that you just lay down on the table, and it's really just there for ease of some things. And also for cleanliness. Let's say let's say the magic that you're doing, you're dealing out a lot of cards, or you don't want to be laying those cards out on the table. The table's dirty, whatever. That's something you need to think about in terms of your material, clearly, because you don't want to, ruin your deck after every set. You don't want to have to toss it. Now, you may do that. There's many people, and I have certainly in some occasions, after I've worked a table, boom, you just give that deck out and you go on to the next table and you're working with a fresh deck. So it doesn't really matter if the deck becomes dirty, because it's like, boom, it's a souvenir. This is our time together, giving that as a souvenir. Generally though, depending on what the situation is, you may not be carrying 30, 40, 50 decks to last you the whole evening. You're working a lot of, you're doing magic at a lot of different places. So just keep that, really just think about where you're going, what you're doing, and if that surface is a good idea. Now, if you are carrying a bag, I know people who walk around, they have a little attaché case, they have a little briefcase, they have a little case, and you can put objects in there, including a close-up pad. Make sure that whatever you are bringing fits the profile of the environment. I have some nice close-up surfaces. I have some not so nice one. I've been doing magic for a long time, and I can tell you I have close-up pads literally strewn around my room, around my home. I have close-up pads that stay outside, and they're on my windowsill. So if I need to go outside, it's there, and those sometimes get rained on. People are, they get sunburned, they get everything. They're out in the wild, and they're used for home practice, so I don't really mind the condition of them. They're not very expensive pads, they're just things that I work with at home. But if you are going out, you want to make sure that what you are doing fits the environment, and everything needs to fit. Just look in the environment. You don't need to be a fashion designer, a home decorator, but you look at the environment and you see what fits, what doesn't fit. It's just like the clothes that you wear. Do you fit the engagement? Do you fit the room? Are you underdressed? Are you overdressed? Are the props that you're using clean? Are they, imagine you get hired for an event. Are you going to bring a dirty deck of cards that's been dropped in the sand, in the mud, and like you just see the edges. The cards are all warped and yellow, and they have dirt in between every single card. They just look nasty. Nobody wants to take a card. Nobody wants to shuffle those cards. Nobody even wants to touch them. No, you're gonna go there with a certain standard. It's the same thing with the pad. Whatever surface you do end up using when you are out in the wild performing magic, make sure that it is nice. Make sure that it fits the environment. You don't want to bring something nasty and put it on their table around their food. Same thing with your cards. Same thing with everything. Whatever props you are using, you want it to fit the environment. You want it to be comfortable for people. That is if you use a surface. Oftentimes, depending on the situation, it really depends. If I'm sitting down and I'm doing more of a formal show, I'll have my close-up pad. I'll have some sort of surface because I'm in control of that environment. I know what I'm doing. I'm controlling that environment. But if I'm, out at a restaurant with a client, or after an event, I've done my show on stage and there's a bunch of clients and they invite me to their table. Might I have my close-up pad? I might. I might not. It really depends. I'll sort of scope out the situation beforehand. I'll look at the table they're sitting on. I get all this information before I'm in the situation, generally speaking, so that when I'm in the situation, I know. If they want to see magic, can I perform on that surface? Is it going to be trouble? What table are they sitting on? Is it too high for me? Is it too low? Is it too big? How far away are they? These are all things that I keep in mind. So it could be that I bring some sort of a surface or close-up pad to perform on. Could be that I don't. It really depends on what I'm doing and if I need it. Generally speaking, I don't like to bring it. Now it really depends, because it really depends on how much magic that I think I'm going to be doing. The more magic I plan to be doing, the more I want to be in control of that surface. Just because it gives me a lot more possibilities in terms of what I can do comfortably. Whereas if it's a glass table, let's say it's a high-up glass table, okay? The seat's a little uncomfortable for me just to get up there and sit and balance on it, and I'm performing on this table. I'm going to be more limited in my material, personally, just because the way that I handle cards and do things, I'm going to be more limited. Will I still be able to do magic? Absolutely. I'll probably be able to do a good, solid close-up set. I will be able to do a good close-up solid set, but will I do more than that? No. Am I going to push things? Am I going to do stuff that requires that soft, smooth surface? Absolutely not. I'm not even going to try it. Just because I know it's good. Yeah, I'm going to have issues with it, and I don't want to have issues. Now, I do adapt my material to be able to perform quite a bit of my material under those conditions, different versions of effects, different handlings, different techniques, but it is something that I am very aware of. You have other people who from my knowledge of them have taken a different approach. You have guys like Rene Levon, who when he was performing, I believe he always controlled the surface. He always had the surface exactly the way he wanted it to be. He set it up the way he wanted it to be, and when he was performing, he was performing. It wasn't just, casual, oh hey, Rene, show us a trick. And he just, boom, pops it out, and, the table's not working, and he's just, I don't think he was struggling with it. He was really a master of controlling the environment, which I do believe there is value to. You have that respect as a magician where you're not, just a guy who's like, just doing everybody's bidding. Oh, hey, show us a trick. Okay, let me show you this one. You just pop out of the deck and boom, you're straight into it. Not that that is a bad thing, but there's different approaches, and you can certainly approach it with a more dignified manner where it's like, oh, you want to see magic? Okay. Let's set it up. And you set up that platform, you set up that performing environment, and then you really perform for them. and you have your thing set up. That's a different approach, where you guys want to see some magic? Okay, you call the waiter over. Let's clear the table. Let's set it up. You guys can have your drinks in the corner, but we're not gonna have stuff all over the table. We're not gonna have You guys want to see a show? I'll perform some magic for you. I'll perform, but we're gonna do it in a more dignified, controlled approach. And there's other approaches where it's like, okay, let me just pull this out. Let me show you something, just me and you down here, and you're just, going straight into it. That's also an approach. There's not one that's better than the other. These are different. And this is something that you really need to just think about when you are going out and performing and you're working. But I would say all these things are resolved the more thinking and the working that you do at home. And the biggest thing that I'll tell you is what I told you at the beginning, which is to look at your material and to have multiple versions of it. Very much like David Devant said, I only do 8 tricks, but I can do them under any circumstance. I can do them in the theater, I can do them in the street, I can do them and that's you having multiple versions of this. The example that I give all the time is the beautiful trick, the rising card. Most people only perform this in the theater. They have a beautiful version of it. What happens if a spectator comes up to you in the street the next day after they've seen your show, and they're with their friend? They're like, oh wow, that was amazing when you made the card rise out of the glass and it was floating through the air and you caught it. My friend is over here. Can you show them that trick? I've been telling him about it. He doesn't believe me. Can you show him that trick? And you're in there in the street. You don't have your theater. You don't have your special, setup in the street. You're just walking. What do? Can you do that trick? That's the thing. That's the value of having multiple versions, so that you can perform the same pieces of magic in different settings. It might even be a totally different handling, but you can give them a great experience. They challenge you. They're requesting it. You can do it. You can respond and rise to the occasion. And this is how we need to approach all our magic. So when I'm talking about should you bring a surface, it really depends on what it is that you perform and what it is that you can perform from your material and how you can adapt it to perform, on wood, on glass, on whatever is in front of you. Maybe you're sitting in a park, okay, and you're having a picnic and you're sitting on a blanket on the grass. Somebody says, oh hey, can you show us something? That's a different performing. It's uneven. You lay the deck down. The deck is spreading by itself. It's an uneven surface. These are all things that you need to be prepared for. You need to be thinking about in terms of your material, in terms of your handling, in terms of what you can perform. This is part of knowing your magic, knowing your material. And all this is thought exercise, preparing different versions. And you do this, you'll be a master of it, because you'll have, we'll just take an effect like Triumph. You'll have multiple versions of it, so you can really perform it under any circumstance. You can perform it in the theater, you can perform it in the street, you can perform it on the glass tables, on the wood. You can perform it in the hands when you're standing and you're doing walk around and you don't have a table to spread. You can do it in the hands. Really do think about this stuff, and I do want to talk about that surface, because the surface is very important. This is what we're talking about, but it's really you understanding what it is that you're doing with that surface, whether you should be bringing that surface with you, and whether it's appropriate. So hopefully this gives you a little bit of sense of clarity as to whether you should be bringing that surface or not. Really read the room. Look at the situation, look at the clients, look at the guests, look at the surface that exists. How are you carrying that surface around? How are you carrying that close-up around? Is it big? Is it small? Are you carrying it in your hands? Is it heavy? Can it get dirty? Do you want it to get dirty? Do you want, some of these magic surfaces that cost $250, $300, they're quite expensive. Can you afford to have it ruined? Can you afford to have it ruined? Are you going to bring something cheaper when you're working? How cheap does what you're bringing look like? Is it nice enough to be in that venue? Is it nice enough to go on that table? Are people eating? Are people drinking? Do people want it on the table? Do you have your own space at the table, or are you sort of crowding in, breaking through that group and, claiming space in that already limited resource, that surface area of the table? These are all things to think about. Think about it. Think about it. Seriously, it's going to help you in your magic. Thank you, as always, for watching. If you guys do enjoy this, the best thing that you can do is share this video. Share it with your friends in magic or the people that you like. If you aren't already subscribed, please subscribe. And do all that stuff. You guys know the social media stuff, but I'm trying to talk about things that people aren't talking about, trying to give you advice and the real work behind things, the real thinking that goes on when you are performing magic and you do this stuff professionally. So hopefully this helps you a little bit, and I hope it gave you a little bit of value and insight into my approach. And if you do have any questions, please let me know in the comments, anywhere, send me a message, and I will do my best to answer it. Thank you as always for watching, and have a great day.